Hello, my name is Jake. I am a qhht level 2 practitioner, a hypnotist. I practice past life regression or regression hypnosis. Today, I have a interesting session for you all focused on ET lives or alien lives, extraterrestrial lives. So before we get into it, if you like this kind of content, please make sure you like and subscribe to my channel. Share it with someone if you think they'd be interested as well. This is, like I said, a pretty interesting one. Uh, Before we jump into the session story, there is lots out there right now in the mainstream media, in alternative media. Um, Lots of opinions, lots of different viewpoints and understandings of life beyond our Earth. One of the coolest experiences that I get to have as a hypnotist is when I have people regress to lives that are not from this planet. So, a lot of people, when they think of past life regression or regression hypnosis, they think about historical lives, peasant in the medieval times, slave in ancient Egypt, these identifiable time periods in our human history. But that's certainly not the only experience that you could be shown in a hypnosis session. So I wanted to share a example of this, and this certainly won't be the last because these are some of my favorites, and explain, what we saw, what my client experienced, and then why it was shown to my client, why this lifetime was picked. So, without further ado, let us jump into it. We'll call this client Gabby. Gabby, when she arrived into this lifetime, she was found herself in a very unfamiliar environment, and more than that, a very unfamiliar body. So I'm going to share to kick this off, share a little bit of a clip from the session audio so that you can hear Gabby herself describing what she looked like and what she was seeing, and then we'll get into it. So let me share that with you, folks.
I see myself kind of like it's not a cartoon, but it's like a different body. It's like mm, I would say fat, but it's not fat. It's just like a round body with a kind of mm, weird legs and feet.
So, as you can tell, very interesting. She was describing the round body that she had, the weird feet, the weird legs, very clearly something unfamiliar. She started out with that phrase. It's not a cartoon, but um, clearly a really unfamiliar sight and hard to describe. And I have definitely found this in the case in a lot of these sorts of sessions where the client finds himself in a situation in a body that is just so unfamiliar that it's hard to describe in human terms or to describe in general because it's just so unfamiliar. It's something they've never seen before. Um, and it doesn't match anything that they have experienced in this lifetime that they have like conscious awareness of. The phrase definitely not a human body was used. She was really struggling to describe what she was seeing in a way that made sense. She went on to use the phrase not lizard but maybe reptilian. I was assuming that she was talking about kind of the skin texture. She went on to describe that it was a very masculine energy, like a warrior. He said that he didn't have any clothes on, and that there was no hair. Uh, and so definitely a very, very alien appearance. As he continued to kind of search for words to describe both the appearance and the feeling, um, He used words like savage and then took that back, and then said wild and then took that back as well. Again, searching for words. He went on to say that he felt very warrior like, very strong and tough, but clarified not aggressive, which I thought was interesting. And this point made more sense as the story unfolded. And I'll definitely lay that out for you guys. We moved on from kind of the physical appearance. So he went on to describe that the air was, or the atmosphere was almost smoky, like gray looking. But he clarified that it's not smoky, like it wasn't like a fire smoke. It was like an opaqueness to the atmosphere. He shared that there was no one else around, he was all alone. But as he was looking around, uh, he called out this feeling of sadness, that he felt sad and wasn't exactly sure why. He went on to say that realized that the people that lived there, the people on that planet, had to leave. And I asked, are these your people, or are these beings like you? And he said no, that it had become unsustainable for life, or that it wasn't good at sustaining life. Super interesting. I wanted to find out more, but at this point, he felt like he wanted to leave. He felt like he had done what he needed to do there. There was this pull to leave and to go back to where he was before. I encouraged him to follow that urge, and we ended up at a very different location. I went ahead and asked, what are you seeing? What's going on around? He said that he was home, that it was a beautiful landscape. There was green plants all around. So definitely quite the contrast to the place that we were just at. And when I asked what was going on around, if there was anyone else around him, what was he seeing, he saw what appeared to be a welcome party. And they were all beings like him, and they were celebrating his return. He's used the words treating me like a hero. He seemed unsure, and said, I didn't do anything. Why are they treating me like this? I didn't do anything. After quite a lengthy pause, he said that indeed his society, his culture, these beings that he was one of, did in fact inflict this cloudiness on that other planet, on that other place. And he clarified that the purpose for this, the purpose for creating this inhospitable environment, this cloudiness, this opaqueness to the atmosphere, was indeed to drive the inhabitants off, to essentially clear the planet. And he said that his job, where he had just returned from, was supervising and kind of checking out to make sure that the beings, the inhabitants of that planet, were indeed gone. He realized at this point that that was why he came down prepared to fight. He had this readiness to him when he arrived on the planet, and admitted in that moment too that even though he was ready to fight, he didn't want to. Again, explaining that although he was tough and physically, I guess, prepared to fight, really didn't have that aggressive drive, didn't take any pleasure in that, in fighting. He clarified too at that point, which I thought was really interesting, that the cloudiness, there was a type of shielding that they did. He akined it to like a force field around the planet that altered the atmosphere, and it was something that they did because they wanted something from the planet. They were there to clear the planet so that they could gain access to it easily. So they were able to mine. They said that there was minerals on that planet that they wanted. There was minerals that they were after. And so I asked, what kind of minerals? Can you tell me a little more about that? And he clarified at that point, which I thought was really interesting, that it was crystals that they were looking to obtain. Having done a lot of reading in my time, particularly Dolores Cannon's work, I know that she's had a lot of writing around the topic of mining crystals and of that interplanetary mining of resources, usually uh, as a way of obtaining an energy source, either transmitting energy or producing energy. So it was really cool for me to have a session where this information came out. So at this point, I asked if there was anything else that stood out around this welcome party, if there was anything else that was coming up. And the answer was no. So we moved on to the next scene. I'm going to play a short couple of clips to give you from Gabby's perspective what she was seeing, and then I'll explain.
So it seems like I'm wounded. I know that now I see why I didn't want to go forward. I had a cut from my chest all over to my leg. Like, I don't know if it was an axe or... But it was definitely done by someone. I think I'm gonna die. And I think it was caused because I just don't feel like fighting like the others, and even though I have that like the same body and strong and look aggressive, but I'm not.
So, as you heard, this was a mortal wound, wound across the chest, a huge cut, maybe from an axe. And this being was pretty sure he was going to die. What I found interesting as well from that, he was viewed as a threat by whoever did this to him. And that because he didn't have the aggressive drive that the other beings did, that he was essentially eliminated, that he was attacked for that. Whenever a client goes through a death scene like this, I always ask them, when they're on the spirit side, after whatever's happened has happened, what were the lessons that they were learning in that lifetime? What was the purpose? Because there always is a purpose and there always is a lesson to be learned, or multiple lessons to be learned in an incarnation. That's why we choose to incarnate, whether that be in a human life or in a extraterrestrial life, an alien life. So what he said, that the lessons that he was learning were how to be strong and learning how to be in a body. So learning how to be in a body, that's a lesson that we all have to learn at some point. We are non-physical souls choosing to have a physical incarnation, and so learning how to be in a body is definitely something that we all go through. The purpose that he outlined was to know other types of strength. Clearly, this was a society where physical strength and aggression, being very much power over others, this was what was valued. And in the end, he stuck to his values, his strength of character. Another interesting purpose for that lifetime, as he laid out, was adding to or enriching the experiences of the soul, which I thought was super interesting. Clearly not like the most joy-filled life, but as I've seen with the wide variety of experiences that my clients have gone through, one of the most important pieces for incarnating, or the purposes for incarnating, is really enriching and expanding the experiences that we have, giving us as wide a range as possible of, as some might say, experiencing everything. So I thought that was really interesting. At this point, I want to play a short little clip from the discussion with my client's higher self when their subconscious laid out why they chose to show this lifetime and what the purpose was. So let me play that for you.
To see different structures and realities, and to get detached from the drama of this lifetime.
All right. So, I mean, pretty much exactly what my client realized after their death. They picked this experience, this very different experience, this very foreign experience for my client to see in the session, because they wanted to show those different structures and realities that are possible in the cosmos. And they chose this to help my client detach from what they called the dark trauma of this lifetime. I think a lot of us, especially in today's day and age, are dealing with a lot of trauma, not only our own, but on a collective level. And so um, I think that message really resonates beyond just my client. The higher self went on to say that it's really important that we remember that we're all one. That even though it's hard to remember in the 3D, in the third dimension, that it's really important that we remember this, and that we remember that this is all a game, and that it's okay, that it's really okay. I've heard it described as the divine playing a game of hide and seek with itself. You know, we are eternal souls that incarnate into the physical that we forget. And that the more that we can remember this, the more that we can remember that not only is that we are divine, that we are part of the divine, but that we are connected to everybody and all of life, not only here on this planet, but beyond, that can help really give us perspective. I think that these types of experiences, when they come up, are definitely, like the subconscious said, helping us to see the huge contrast and variety in life, and that when we open ourselves up to other planets, other bodies, other species throughout the cosmos, that diversity, that variety is even greater. I think that when we can understand and experience these types of lifetimes, these otherworldly lives, not only are they interesting, not only are they really cool, because they are so different from our human existence, but when we witness them, when we explore them, it really shows how vast the cosmos are. That sense of perspective on our human lives, that even for that moment, it helps us to put a little bit less pressure on ourselves. Whatever expectations we're putting on ourselves, or fulfill the expectations that others are putting on us. I think that um, this particular lifetime of this being born into a very aggressive and domineering society, um, that I think has a little bit of a parallel here with our lives. He stood up for what he believed in. He didn't succumb to that aggression, didn't change, um, even though, as he put it, he was built for that aggressive, physically domineering way of life. Uh, and he stood for what he believed in so much so that he paid that ultimate price. So I think that we're lucky to be in a time where there is more and more understanding of the diversity of life, and the importance of sensitivity, and the importance of valuing life. I think that if you look at the world around us, through the contrast of not valuing life, we're being called more and more to really like this being was stand by our convictions and to emphasize how important all of life is, and that we don't need to give in to what the society around us says is normal, says is standard, that we don't need to be aggressive, that we don't need to be warlike, that we can choose love over violence. So hopefully you enjoyed that story as much as I did, and that you got something out of that experience as well. Please, again, like, share, and subscribe. It really does help the channel grow. And I look forward to sharing more session stories with you in the near future, because there's certainly a lot of interesting ones. All right. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great rest of your day.